Hello, everybody. And I want to thank Acoustic Geeks for the phenomenal, I think it's, hopefully this is their cover of Star Trek TNG theme, which we first did here in the original series, the first Star Trek movie. So hopefully that's where, hopefully he did it. If he didn't, then hey, congratulations to whoever made it, because I really like it. So it's good stuff, man. It really is. All right, so let's talk about Picard. I don't know why I couldn't go live from YouTube the normal way. I had to go live a different way. It was very strange. I don't understand that at all. It wasn't working. Been doing this for 8 years. I know how it works, so there's something definitely wrong. So this is going to be spoilers. I'm not going to spoil it yet, though. So any spoilers and things, little things like that, I'm not going to say anything yet. So first, this will be an initial thoughts. No spoilers yet, but in a minute I will let you know when I'm going to get into spoilers. So for right now, no spoilers yet. But there will be spoilers. So I don't know, again, why I wasn't able to stream the regular way, but who cares? You don't care about that. So I was very worried going into Star Trek Picard, very concerned going into Star Trek Picard, because as you know, there has been an insane, weird agenda on sci-fi movies and films and ruinings of our childhoods. And also, Star Trek Discovery has been, to me, not a very good show. Probably the worst Star Trek ever made, Star Trek Discovery. It had some really cool and good moments, but to me, 70% of Discovery wasn't good, and some parts were downright cringe. When it comes to ruining the lore, Klingons being naked, banging, the swears, the violence, just way too much for me I can't watch Discovery with my kids the way I watched Star Trek with my dad and my parents. There is a little bit of a double standard there, because when I was a kid, I watched RoboCop, which is an insanely violent movie, with my parents, but there wasn't any Klingon effing going on. So YouTube's messed up, that's why. Oh, really? Is there a problem with YouTube tonight? I don't even know. But anyway, here we are at 4:40 a.m. because I can't sleep, which is really going to ruin my sleep schedule. So again, no spoilers yet, but I will get to spoilers in a second. So no spoilers yet. I was very concerned about Star Trek Picard. And I will tell you right now, I liked this episode. I liked episode 1. And it is an overall Picard so far, at least this episode. It's a little bit, there are some little disjointed things here, a little bit in there, but it's a slow-paced, yet fast-moving story, if that makes any sense. This is only episode 1. But I got to tell you guys, I heard a lot of the reviewers coming out of England or Hollywood or wherever they were in London at the premiere. At the premiere. Commander. No, at the premiere, and they said, best first episode of any Star Trek ever. Now, I can't really say that because they're all so special to me. This, to me, feels kind of like extra. We're getting an extra little story of the life of Picard, something we didn't think we were ever going to get and didn't deserve. Almost like a love letter in a way, this episode. But not the love letter that Enterprise gave us with These Are the Voyages with Riker. It is a very tranquil, I think it captures the world that we remembered pretty well for the most part, it seems, with a little bit of a sense of updated, you know what I mean? We're in 2020 with technologies and computers. So there's a sense of an update, and 20 years has passed since the last time we saw these characters. So there is a little bit of an update feel, but it's also a lot of nostalgia for what was there. Much like how J.J. Abrams and usually Star Trek overall doesn't overdo the technology on Earth. They do a good job of that here, where technology is there, but, the regular world is still here, too. So I really enjoyed that. So I thought the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies were fun. They weren't really Star Trek to me. They were a little bit, but they weren't really. And so the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, I consider them kind of a fun telling of Star Trek by somebody else that aren't canon really, and that they don't bother me. They don't ruin Star Trek for me. I kind of like seeing Star Trek in like a weird like action movie light, I guess, but I don't really consider them that much canon, and I don't really like them that much. I think they're like a nice little 7 out of 10 movie type of thing. But not a big fan of J.J. Abrams. Definitely not a fan of Discovery. But Picard so far, this first episode, feels like it really is part of, like it is Picard. It feels like it is it's not TNG, because nothing will ever be TNG. But it does feel like it's in Picard's world. Overall, I mean, maybe it's just nostalgia, maybe it's just being this happy to see this, but overall, I thought it was a good episode, an 8 out of 10, this first episode of Picard. They were off-branded, fun little movies. Jesse James, you got that right about J.J. Abrams. So anyway, I guess I'm just going to have to say spoilers from here on in. But I just want to say before that, I like this 8 out of 10. I really like, Discovery started bad right off the bat to me. I didn't like it right from the very beginning with what happened. So this is different. This is, I feel good in the first episode. I don't think someone said bait and switch was how they felt about Discovery. I did not feel Discovery was a bait and switch. I felt right from the beginning it was kind of bad. And then Discovery got way better in the last few episodes of the first season. And then the second season was a mess other than Pike. Other than Pike and maybe a couple episodes, it was a mess. So right now we're 8 out of 10. We're 1 for 1. As far as Picard goes, in my opinion, we're 1 for 1. I think there was probably only 6 or 7 good episodes of Discovery, maybe, if you could say that, even. I don't know. But right now, Picard is 1 for 1 with me. It is tranquil. It is serious. It is interesting. It is sad. It is happy. Like, it's all these things, man. I got to tell you, I'm a 35-year-old. I'm going to be dead serious with you guys. All right? I will tell you this on this show right now as far as Picard goes. I'm not some baby for the most part emotionally. But, and this is spoilers from here on in. The show opens up with a scene with Data and Picard on the Enterprise D. The Enterprise we all love from TNG. And they're playing poker, and it's a great scene. I really liked it. And they're talking about Data's tells, and that's when, eventually Picard gets to the line that you've heard in the trailer where he says, I don't want the game to end. And then he looks over and sees Mars, and Mars is under attack and is being blown up, and, we've heard about that. If you read the comics before the show and watched the Children of Mars short trek, then you know about that. So Mars is being destroyed by the synths, which are the synthetic robots, androids, blew up Mars, and Picard wakes up from a dream. And but the scene with Data was really good, man. Data looked really good. Data looked like, I can't even believe they got Brent Spiner to look pretty good. I mean, like, it was not like the one shot in the trailer that was weird. It was way better. It was probably the best. It was a very good scene to me. It was very throwback, that feeling of poker. we're back on Earth. We're at Picard's vineyard, and the pacing of this Star Trek was good so far. I mean, I'm telling you guys, the pacing is slow. Now, there's a couple action moments where things are actiony, but there is a slow, tranquil, somber feeling to this show from the beginning, similar to the feeling you do get in All Good Things when you're on Picard's vineyard when he's older, and he's talking about his aromatic syndrome with Geordi. What's up, everybody in the chat? How you guys doing? And so the pacing, I think, is what I like. I really do like it. It plays like a. It plays like, oh man, it's like a kind of like a mystery a bit. You know, it does play kind of like a mystery, like an adventure mystery, and Picard and Data have great scenes. Seeing Picard kind of wearing the old uniform when he's talking to Data, and Data wearing the uniform. There's a nice little update in the kitchen scene at the beginning where Picard's on the vineyard, and he's with these two Romulans who know him from his past because he helped the Romulans. He's getting ready to be interviewed. Picard is getting ready to be interviewed by a reporter and broadcast all over the world to talk about. He thinks, serving in Starfleet, and this was the day that Romulus blew up and, exploded because of the star-going supernova or whatever. So, he thinks he's there for this, remembrance. But then they actually get political with him about, why were you trying to, save all the Romulans? And Picard's like, well, they're not Romulans, they're people, And she's like, they were Romulans, and then the Mars attack. And so she's really grilling him, and it's hurting Picard. He didn't expect these questions. He's being kind of grilled by this reporter. And he eventually, he gets in a little bit of a defensive mode with her live on this news report that's streaming live, to everybody in the universe, maybe, to everybody in the Federation, on any planet, but I suppose. And he eventually leaves the interview. And the scene, it was really good. I liked the scene. I really did. I thought there was also no time in this episode of Picard where I felt attacked politically or where I felt that there was an agenda that was annoying. There was never an agenda to me that's annoying. So that's another thing that I did feel like I was seeing Picard, in his later years, 20 years later. And that's when, so then we get the scene where Daj, I believe is the name. I'm still a little confused with names and things. I'm going to rewatch the episode later. The woman, the girl who we're all confused about who she is, she's with her boyfriend or something like that, and he gets killed and these people attack her. And then, they're abducting her or whatever, and she can't fight. But then all of a sudden, she can fight. Something clicks on in her head, and she becomes this assassin almost and kills all these people. They are Romulans, we find out later, the people in black that attack Daj. So they appear to be, based on their weapons and what they're wearing, Tel Shiar, which, the Romulan secrets, spies, service, security, I think, if I got my Star Trek right, you know what I mean? I think it's Tel Shiar. I think that's the name. And we've heard about that being rumored in this, and they clearly seem like they're part of that, or the new Tel Shiar. I don't know. So they go to abduct her, and she gets away. And then she has this craving, this feeling to find Picard for some reason, which we're not really sure about why that is. And then when the bottom line is she finds Picard, and when she finds Picard, eventually, he finds out that she's he thinks that she's a synth or she's a robot, and it appears that she is a robot, or some kind of synth or some kind of a human that's actually synthetic robot, but in flesh and blood, if that makes any sense. So, which is like theoretical to him. This is the only part of the show that's a little bit convoluted. He kind of skips to these conclusions a little bit quickly. Like, why would he ever skip to these conclusions, you know? And they do set it up a little bit where there's a painting of her that he finds in the museum, and Data painted it. And so it's a little bit convoluted there with that. You need to watch that. I need to watch it again a few times. But Picard kind of skipping to that result is a little bit forced to me, a little bit. I think they could have done a little bit more to make him figure this out. I think he figures it out a little too quickly. And then the strange thing is this woman, who apparently they're saying, and Picard believes, is Data's daughter, gets attacked again by, I believe, the Romulan guards, or the Romulans, the bad Romulans, the Tal Shiar, maybe, I don't know. And she's trying to rescue him and get him to safety. After, you know, she came to hang out, to live with him because she thought she was safe, but then she leaves, but we don't see her leave, so that part's a little convoluted too. So now she leaves because she's worried that Picard's in danger. You know, but normally what happens when you're worried someone's in danger is something happens to make you worry. So first she thinks, I need to find Picard because he'll keep me safe and he'll have answers for me. And we don't know why she thinks this. And now she finds Picard, and he says he'll help her, but then she just leaves him randomly, like almost immediately. And now she comes to meet up with him again after speaking with her mother for like 5 seconds, and her mother's like, you have to go find Picard again. And she's like, I don't want him to get hurt. So but nothing ever happens to Picard to put him in any jeopardy that makes her think, I need to get out of here. So that's a little weird too. It's like it's like there's a missing scene or a missing event in there somewhere. So that was a little bizarre, but I bought it because I could deal with it. It was fine. Then she meets him again. It's, I believe, right outside of Starfleet or whatever. And then that's when she gets attacked. And then she gets apparently killed in front of him. And he gets knocked back and hurt and brought back to his house. His Romulan friends are waking him up. They're like, they didn't find this girl. You got pretty beat up. And then Picard gets up and goes, that's it. I've been sitting here dying. I need to find out who she was. I think she might be Data's daughter or something somehow. And so I need to find out who she was and who she is and what's going on. I owe it to her, and I'm just sitting here rotting away. You know, so then he goes looking for her, and he goes to the synthetic laboratory, I think in Japan or something or other, whatever. And they look at B4, and synths have been banned. So making robots or making synthetic life forms is banned because the attack on Mars years ago that killed everybody was done by synthetics. So now they're freaked out about synthetics. So it's kind of like that's definitely your classic robots take over the world type of thing. The synthetics turned on everybody and they don't know why. And the synthetics were modeled in a way after Data, but not quite. So, you know, even the girl, Daj or whatever, when he's talking to her, when he tells her his friend was Data, was a robot, an android, she's kind of like, oh, like, you know, she's not even sure, like, why would you be friends with an android or whatever? And Picard's like, no, androids were great, and Data was a wonderful android who cared about everybody. He saved our lives, and he was great. But all she knows is like, well, those synths blew up Mars. So there's that little message in there of scapegoating an entire race or an entire group of people there. But it's nothing that's like terrible. You know what I mean? That's just that's something that's actually always been in Star Trek anyway. So, yeah, you would have to pay for CBS to get this. Yeah, it's on CBS right now. If you're in America, it's on Netflix outside of America, in the U.S. I liked this show. I'll repeat it again that I liked Picard. I am shocked, and it could get worse. I don't know, and there could be problems. I don't know. And you guys know that I don't put up with this SJW stuff anymore. I'm not a fan of the Star Wars movies, especially Last Jedi, when they crammed all the social justice warrior stuff in. You guys know that I used to be a very left-wing person. Now I'm an independent. I'm a little bit right on some things now and a little bit left. You know, so politically, I don't want something crammed down my throat. But if you have a message to deliver in a fashion that's not offensive or insulting, and you want to deliver a message, I think they did a good job of beginning to set that up without it really being part of the show that much. It's the classic messages that you used to get back in the 90s to me. That's the message I'm feeling. I'm feeling like a message where you can accept the message or not accept the message. And if you want to accept it, wonderful. If you don't want to accept it, that's okay too. You can still enjoy the show, even if you feel like they're preaching for some reason, it's not affecting you. If that makes any sense at all. I'm trying to tell you that anyway. So I want to take a second here before I continue on to give you a personal experience of mine, because I think it's fascinating to give you this personal experience. I'm not someone who normally talks about these type of things. I'm not afraid to say it. I don't even care. It doesn't bother me if people laugh at it. But, oh shit, YouTube just cut my comment shitting on movies. Really? That's weird. I had to show your comment. It's weird. I'll tell you what, man. I cried 3 times during this episode. Now, it may be because Star Trek has a deep connection with me. Some of my earliest memories as a kid are watching Star Trek The Next Generation. And I watched Star Trek The Next Generation with my dad. And the sounds of Star Trek, or the sounds of TNG, The Next Generation, when it debuted in 1987. The sounds of the ship, just everything, the look of the ship, space. I love the intro to The Next Generation. I love space a lot. When I was a kid, I just loved telescopes, looking up at the stars and the sun, and the idea that humans would get to where they are in Star Trek is really fun to me. It's a really good thing to me, and I liked it. And I loved watching all these episodes of Star Trek with my dad. Fortunately, my dad died in '92 and he missed the last season of The Next Generation. He never got to see the last season. But I was 8 years old, and I did get to see the last season. I was 9 years old when the last season aired, I believe. And then, of course, the movies and everything else like that. So there's a lot of nostalgia for me with Star Trek. Plus, me and my best friend Bobby, who I met in 1994 or 5 when my mother's met her boyfriend. He was my mother's boyfriend's friend's kid. And so we became very close as kids, playing video games all the time. And he loved Star Trek too, which was crazy to me. So me and Bobby would watch Star Trek all the time. At the time, I think Voyager and Deep Space Nine were still on, but TNG wasn't anymore. So we would watch those shows together. And but then me and Bobby would go see all the new Star Trek movies together when there was only 4 of them, but we saw every one of them together. And we watched them, and watched different Star Treks. We also watched Beavis and Butthead and a whole bunch of crazy stuff, but you know what I mean? We love Star Trek. And I thought it was crazy that my buddy liked Star Trek because nobody else I knew really liked it like that. And he loved it. He was a guy he loved The Rock, the movie The Rock, and a bunch of stuff that I loved. Anyway, so I have all these connections to Star Trek The Next Generation that really mean a lot to me. So this was tough. This was tough. And I will admit that I cried 3 times during this, legit. And there was one time, I got to tell you guys, I was actually scared at one point. This is so crappy to say, but I have to say this. I love telling the truth. I'm a sucker for the truth. Oh, man, at one point when Picard was, I think it was the painting part where he was wearing the red Starfleet uniform. I don't know what it is, dude, but I had a flashback, like memories. And it's weird because I watch TNG to this day all the time. Me and Leah throw on an episode here or there. We've sat through seasons and watched them all over again and whatever. So I don't know why this was doing this, but it really did, man. I'm telling you, I'm not some puss bag who doesn't, who just freaks out over whatever. I couldn't breathe, and I started getting an anxiety attack, and I got an anxiety attack in the middle of this. That's why I'm so late with this review. This aired at 3 a.m. 2 hours ago for me. For 20 minutes in the middle of the show, In the middle of the show, I left the show because I had, at about 20 minutes into the show, I left with an anxiety attack. This is so weird. I can't even believe. I think I have problems. I think I have a problem. I'll tell you this right up front. I think I have a major issue with memories and problems. This is the third time something like this has happened to me in the last 3 years. And I don't know why this is happening to me, but I have some kind of traumatic thing. I don't know what it is, and I'm going to be done talking about it now, but I just wanted to tell you about it because this is my therapy for it, I guess. I don't know. But seeing that red, all this, I have an intense nostalgia for the past, and this wave of nostalgia really ripped over me. It was crazy, man. It like ripped. It just fucking ripped me, and I couldn't breathe for a few. I was like, I was walking around. I had anxiety. I mean, dude, it was very strange. And I came back and started watching again. I had to go upstairs. I grabbed some water. I started pacing around in the room, in the kitchen, and then I eventually was able to come back down and continue watching this show. For most people, you'll never have this experience. You'll watch this and probably think nothing about it. But I don't know what it is. I was very messed up. Anyway, I came back. I started watching it again, and and I mean, this show could go to hell. I mean, this show could end up being terrible. It could end up getting worse. It could end up being ridiculous. I don't know. But this episode, to me, was good. Picard finds this painting. Like I said, it's a little convoluted of this woman. And now she's dead because she blows up, and the Romulans, maybe the Tal Shiar, killed her, or, they died too, but they killed her. At least Picard, yeah, so Picard's worried. And then Picard finds out that, I guess, in order to make a synthetic living human like this, you'd need two or something like that. So he finds out that she has a twin sister somewhere. So so apparently, really, one of them's dead. So for real, I guess, one of them is dead. But she has a sister, a twin sister. And, she's leaping 30 feet in the air, and she's flipping and doing all these crazy things. And, people were like, oh, my God, not another Mary Sue SJW thing. But, she's an android. Not an android, though, a synthetic human robot, I guess. I don't know. And so she can do those things, so that makes sense. But she's like, she's not the savior or anything like that of anything. We're still along for the ride with Picard. There's some things that I'm bouncing all around I'm going to come back to in a minute, but I mean, going forward at the end of the show, we get introduced to the Romulan reclamation site. It's a Borg cube, and unlike the Borg cube that I'd seen before in the trailers, the Borg cube is green. It's not blue, so I don't know what that means, but it's green. I don't know if they changed it. I don't know if that's something they were like, yeah, people are weird about the blue, let's make it green, or if it's a different location. I don't know that. I don't have that answer. But it looks like the Borg cube that they're working on, the Romulans are working on, it looks like the same cube, but in the trailer it was blue. In this one it's green, so it's back to the Borg green. And now I don't know if that's something in post they were like, hey, listen, people recognize the Borg as green. Like, the people are just mentioning blue. Like, we need to just make it green. Make it what it always is. Make it green. So I'm not sure if that's the case, why the Borg cube was now green when in the trailer it had been blue. So, but whatever. But also the Romulans are known for the green colors quite a bit, too. They always have sort of this green mist. They have green blood. There's this really green theme always with the Romulans as well. So, I don't know. You would think that it would be green. Why would the Romulans make something blue? Everything is always green with the Romulans. Then we get sort of a preview. I don't know. I don't think it's a preview for the next episode. I feel like at the end of episode 1, we get a preview of the rest of the season. Kind of a trailer for the rest of the season that we haven't seen yet, with some different shots in it. But I don't think it's the trailer for the next episode. I think it's the trailer for the rest of the season. We're going to find out, I guess, of course, in the next episode. If everything we see in the trailer is in the next episode, then I guess that trailer we saw is, I guess we're going to get that every week. We're going to get a preview of the next episode every episode. I don't know. So CBS Access is $9.99 a month, I believe. You can get it through Amazon Prime, or you can get it. By the way, I have an Amazon link in the description box, so if anybody wants to do it, use my link if you can. Well, maybe I don't have a link down below anymore. Whatever. It's somewhere on one of my channels, but whatever. It doesn't matter. Just do whatever you want. But yeah, I don't know, man. If you're a fan of Star Trek, like a real fan of Star Trek, I think you would like this. If you're like, let me give you my Discovery comparison. Like if you're a fan of Star Trek, an old school fan of Star Trek, I don't think you're gonna really like Discovery that much. In fact, it may infuriate you. But I do think that the end of Discovery Season 1 is amazing. I think the end of Season 1 is great. Like, what they did was so cool. But, unfortunately, all the other stuff that's not Star Trek is terrible. And it's just got to be, probably for me, one of the worst. It's the worst Star Trek, to me. It has some really good moments, though, so it's too bad that they couldn't tone down some of the not Star Trek stuff in it, and tone down some of the SJW stuff, and tone down some of the violence and sex of Klingons. So I would give Discovery, like, if it was called Space Show, I would give it a, 7 out of 10. If they hadn't shit on the Star Trek legacy, the last 5 episodes really make it cool because it ties in with something in Star Trek that you guys all know about, if you've seen it, that's really cool. But everything else sucks, so it's, like, not worth it. Like, the crew going on missions is all, like, there's none of that. So the only thing that's cool is the weird reveal at the end and the connection to all the other Star Treks. That's the only thing that's cool. Everything else is enraging. So overall, I give Star Trek Discovery probably like a 5 out of 10, or a 4 out of 10. I don't know. I'd probably give, The Next Generation, I loved the hell out of it. I'd give it like a 9.5 out of 10. I mean, I'd almost want to give it a 10. I just love it. It's my favorite thing of all time, TNG. I like Star Trek. Looking at the movies for a second, Generations has major problems, plot holes, ridiculous. But I like Generations, even though it has major plot holes. But I kind of like Generations, though. But it's not the best movie at all. It's not a very good one. But I like it. Star Trek First Contact is obviously the one everybody loves, even though the characters are out of character. They're kind of like, Picard's gone crazy. He's like, Deanna's like doing comedy. Data is like a badass. Is like Bruce Willis at one point. I mean, I don't know. It's just a little weird, but it's still, I like it. It's Picard. Star Trek First Contact is like Star Trek with a little steroids. So that everybody loves that one though, and I do love that one. Star Trek Insurrection was like a fucking episode, but it was a movie. Oh, I said an F word. Damn it. This is my first swear of the show. Star Trek Insurrection is like an episode, but I love it. I do like it. It's the most boring one of all of them, but it's okay, and I like it. It's a nice little story. Star Trek Nemesis is one of my favorite. Now, people usually hate Nemesis, but the reason why I like Nemesis a little bit is because, it's a little darker, but also because I feel like almost everybody's in character in Nemesis. You know what I mean? I feel like the characters are pretty much the characters. And there's this little story about Picard getting older and everybody moving on to a new ship and leaving, and he's being left alone, and he feels that. And then when Data sacrifices himself, it's just, I think it's really a very Star Trek story. I still to this day don't know why people don't like that movie. I know that Stuart Baird, the director, was a douche, but I liked Nemesis because I just felt there was a story there about Picard, and I sort of feel like this character of Picard here makes sense. It's definitely the Picard 20 years after that one. It feels like it, for the most part, a little bit. Doesn't quite 100% feel right yet to me, but it's something. I don't know. I liked Nemesis. I don't know what it is, man. It was dark, and it was a little bit of a Wrath of Khan, trying like a ripoff in a way. Not a ripoff, but they tried to do Wrath of Khan. You know, obviously, First Officer Sacrifice. It's similar. But anyway, going back to episode 1 of Star Trek Picard, spoilers, of course. Again, I thought I was not going to like this. I was very concerned about this. I'm not saying it might not get bad. It might get worse. It might be bad. But this was full on the feels. I hate when people say that, but I'm going to say that because that's how I describe it. It is a different sort of pacing and tone, as you would expect. It kind of had a vibe of the old Doctor Who, not old Doctor Who, but kind of like the a little bit of a Doctor Who vibe in a way, like of the sort of like a British TV show or something. It had a tranquil, stoic, solemn vibe to it. And the scenes with Data, it felt like Data and Picard were really there again. Honestly, Patrick Stewart as Picard, he seemed a lot older. And it's weird because Brent Spiner seemed like Data from almost Nemesis. He didn't really seem that much older to me, which I was shocked by. Whatever they did with the aging and the makeup, they actually did a good job to me, especially in the opening scene. Data felt like he really hadn't aged that much at all. And Picard did feel like he'd aged. So the scene played well that Picard's in this dream. And, you know, obviously, it's a dream for Picard. And yeah, that was really, I don't know, man. When Picard was wearing the red uniform with Data during one of the painting dream sequences, that's when I really had, you know, that's when I started getting all messed up. You know what I mean? Emotionally started getting all messed up, which I still can't believe that this did this to me. I guess I wasn't prepared for that, and I was concerned. There was a good, you know, the fight scene was cool with the girl, with I believe the Tel Shiar or whoever the Romulans are. They're after her. You know, we see B4. We do get some explanation about B4 where the doctor says, I forget her name, that the doctor that Picard meets about B4. She says, you know, we basically the transfer from Data didn't work. Almost nothing, you know, transferred over type of deal. Picard feels like sort of like a mini movie series. I'm trying to compare it to something, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Has anybody ever seen, there was you ever see those like sci-fi drama shows? You know what I mean? Like where the world's going to end if we don't stop a comet from coming, and every week there's another episode about what they have to do, or, you know, there's a famine on the earth and we have to save ourselves, or there's like a plague that happened and we're living through the plague, and the show is about trying to save the human race or something like that. Those type of shows. Do you know those type of sort of sci-fi doomsday drama shows? That's kind of what Picard reminded me of. Except they were all in, but except you know these characters and you care about them, and it's in Star Trek world. I know that that's weird, but that's sort of the vibe. The tranquil, solemn, dark vibe I get, but it's not too dark. It's not that. It feels like Star Trek. It feels like everybody is doing okay. It doesn't feel like a bad thing. Yeah, in the trailer, I'm trying to figure out by looking at this trailer, we got a lot of information in this teaser that came after the episode. And there's a Borg and there's all kinds of things. That I don't know if everything we're seeing in these trailers is going to be next week's episode, or if everything we're seeing in these trailers are the rest of the series or a few episodes down. I don't know. I would assume that it's only next week that we saw. We're going to see Hugh eventually. Hugh, the Borg that, Picard released and freed when Lore, was trying to control the Borg in that episode that I don't remember the name of it. So, yeah, again, overall, everybody played well to me. Nobody played too much like obnoxious people are. Like, a lot of the obnoxious style of humans now are in these shows in Star Trek, especially in Short Trek. That one where that commanding officer is just belittling some guy who made a mistake. It just doesn't feel like Star Trek to me. But this did. This felt like Star Trek to me. It certainly doesn't feel like TNG because 100% because it's such a different futuristic, tranquil, setting. It's not TNG. TNG was much happier. But when they would go to like Picard in the episode where oh my God, what? I can't remember episodes anymore. I've got brain damage or something. The Inner Light with Picard. Yeah, I heard Star Trek 4 has been canceled. I did hear that. Again, that's true. Second time. The Inner Light episode where it's very tranquil on that planet. It's a little bit of how this episode kind of plays to me. I don't think Hollywood needs Michael Bay for Star Trek because Michael Bay's buddy already did Star Trek 3, and that was terrible. So, well, not terrible, but I just don't like action Star Trek. I don't agree at all. Star Trek needs more of I think Quentin Tarantino would have been great for Star Trek because Quentin Tarantino is so great at dialogue, and Star Trek is very dialogue-driven, story-driven, and character-driven, character, dialogue, and story. I know that's something everything should have, so what am I talking about? But you know what I mean. It's not action first. It's not even action second. Action takes a very far back seat. So I hope Michael Bay stays way the hell away from Star Trek. He already ruined Ninja Turtles for me, so I don't need him ruining this too. Again, I would give Picard Episode 1 an 8 out of 10. And I think if you're on the fence and you hate Discovery, but you really liked TNG or Voyager or Deep Space Nine or that stuff, I mean, I think you really have to be a fan of The Next Generation to really kind of get the feeling here. But if you're not a fan of any Star Trek, this is something you could watch and understand because you're like, okay, I get it. He used to be a captain, something happened, now he's old, and now there's this mystery going on, and he used to be be friends with this guy Data, but Data's dead, so he's dreaming about his past. Okay. So you could come into this and watch it without knowing too much, but I definitely think that if you're a big TNG fan, that this is much more delightful, I guess. Just watch Picard, and my view on this is it's different but interesting. Feels more personal. Gave me feels. Maverick, that's how I feel, man. I was very concerned about this. I was very concerned about an agenda. I was very concerned about too action-y. I was very concerned about really bad messages. And so far, I didn't get that. I really liked this episode. I did. It really, it kind of captures that feeling of Picard in the future and all good things. It really does, which is what I wanted. Though, did you hear Whoopi Goldberg is going to be part of Star Trek Picard Season 2? What's up, ADTR? I did. I saw the thing on The View. I haven't been a fan of The View, and I definitely have not been a fan of Whoopi Goldberg's recent annoying politics. And her always just flipping out about Trump and all her stupid stuff. But I do like Whoopi Goldberg overall, usually, or at least I did. I don't know what she's become now. But that'd be really cool. And I saw it, and that was really a cool moment, to be honest. And I would love to see Guinan return. Unlike the left, crazy part of the left, like Whoopi Goldberg is, they would probably tell you that somebody can't be in Star Trek because of their politics again, or you can't come back because, you're a bad person or whatever. But unlike that, even though Whoopi Goldberg, I think, has gone bananas, nutso, I think her playing Guinan would be great. And I like Guinan, and she's got a relationship with Picard that's very interesting and stuff. Now, Whoopi Goldberg played Guinan on TNG for so long, so having her back isn't a big deal to me, because I don't care about Whoopi's politics or if she's bad or good in real life. If she's playing a character, that's all that matters to me, is the character, And I want to like Whoopi Goldberg, so I hope she's, I hope she just tones it back and thinks about, not just demonizing so many people for mistakes or for things. And hopefully she will, maybe she'll watch some old episodes of Star Trek and realize that she hasn't been the best. But yeah, so I'll give her the pass for Guinan. Yeah, me too. So yeah, bring her back. I'm okay with it, as long as it makes sense. They said they would only do it if it makes sense. It feels like we're going to get everybody back at some point. I mean, come on. I wonder if Geordi is alive. That's the biggest thing I've been wondering about. Is Geordi alive? Because Geordi, I thought, would normally be, I would think, on Mars, because Geordi was helping to build to engineer the starships on Utopia Planitia, right? He was helping to build the starships. So was Geordi on Mars? Is Geordi dead? I would think if Geordi was dead, that would have played a role in Picard already. Like, it would have been, Picard looking at a picture of him or worried about him. So the fact that he's not doing that, I don't think Geordi's dead. So, but you would think he would have been on Mars. So, at some point, maybe we'll see Geordi. Maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll see Worf. I don't know. Have I ever read Star Trek books? Not really. I read a couple years ago, way back when I was younger, I did, but I didn't get through them all, because I'm not good with books, unfortunately. I wish I was. But anyway, it's far too late for me to be up still. And I've had a blast. I knew I wouldn't be able to sleep because I'm such a bitch that I was way too hyped up and emotional for this. Ever since I saw Nemesis, I just begged in my own head and begged in my mind that we would get to see these characters again. And the great thing about this episode to me is that right off the bat now I can tell that All Good Things isn't ruined for me. The movie, nothing's ruined for me. I was really worried about that. Yeah, I'm not really sure, Maverick, why Riker isn't on the Titan, but it's 20 years later. You got to remember that. Commander Riker became Captain Riker of the Titan in the year 2000, or not, I'm sorry, in whatever year it was in Star Trek. But, in 2003, so we're talking 20 years ago. They say in this episode 20 years have passed since Data sacrificed himself. So we're 20 years after Data. So, Riker had been captain of the Titan potentially for 10 years, 5 years, 15 years. I don't know. So he's not on the Titan now. I don't know why. We don't know that yet. They didn't answer that in this episode. He's not in this episode. And so, yeah. I don't know if maybe they retired. Maybe he decided to retire with Deanna. Which is surprising because we always thought when Picard, that Picard would still be chasing around stuff, but Riker would be an admiral somewhere. And in All Good Things he is. But, All Good Things is a loose kind of thing because Q, was helping Picard to fix a problem that would happen in the future, but would that have all really happened the way it would happen? I don't know. So, I don't know. I don't know about Riker. We don't know. He could be on vacation for all we know. They could be on a vacation. He could be waiting for a new ship. He could be going back to Starfleets. I don't know. We don't know what Riker's doing. It's very interesting to me what he could be doing. 7 of 9 is more human, yeah, because of course 20 years has passed, and she just got more human and more human. So it only makes sense that now 7 of 9 is much more human 20 years later. So, and even more than that. So, I think one of the things that I'm gonna miss about Star Trek, because this show is kind of like putting the final, not in a bad way, but kind of wrapping up. Like I've finally come to the conclusion or the acceptance that the old Star Treks are done. That's never going to be like that again. It's never going to be like TNG. It's never going to be like Enterprise. It's never going to be like Voyager. It's never going to be like Deep Space Nine. It's just not going to be like that. They were such small shows. It feels like the scope of the stuff that comes out now is so big. The scope of even Picard, it just feels big. Where the scope of TNG felt more quaint, and you could really focus on these characters, and the simpleness of these single stories that were being told in Star Trek. I don't know if we'll ever get that again, really. I know that CBS is developing an episode or a series like that. I know that they're trying to do, they're going to have Discovery keep going. They're going to have a Starfleet Academy show, I think they want to have. They're going to have more Star Trek Picard. And then I heard that they're going to do Star Trek Pike, or Captain Pike is going to be on the Enterprise. And they're going to do the classic Star Trek stories. Every episode's a different episode and they don't all connect together. I believe that they said they may do that with Pike because we're still about 7 years or 10 years, I think 7 years away from Captain Kirk and all that stuff. So we would get Captain Pike on the Enterprise with independent stories, the way that we all know Star Trek. And Discovery would keep on this weird, long, whole season arc that they do, and Picard's going to be a seasonal arc, but it's Picard, so it's just better. I don't know. I don't know. So that's there's a lot of Star Trek coming. Whether it will be good or not, we'll see. I mean, I can remember when I didn't like Enterprise. The first season or two of Enterprise, I didn't watch them because I heard the opening theme and I was like, what is this? This is not Star Trek. It's been a long time. But now I love the intro to that show. And I started watching Enterprise during the second season, at the end of the second season, and I got hooked on it. Then I watched the first episode of Enterprise, and I got super hooked on it. Then I went out and bought the whole Season 1 on DVD, and then Season 2 on DVD came out a few weeks later, and I was really excited. And then I got to see Season 3 debut, and then I watched Season 4, of course, and then they canceled it. But and I ended up loving Star Trek Enterprise. When at first I was crapping on it, and I was like, this isn't Star Trek, and the canon's a little weird, and what are they doing? And I was very angry. Oh, yeah, that's right. Section 31 has a series, too, which I know I won't watch that. I will not watch that. I hate Section 31. I hate the evil side of the Starfleet. I've never liked it. I've always been annoyed by it because I want to sort of see the perfect world, for the most part, that Gene Roddenberry set up. And the idea of this, like, Section 31 to me is just such an annoying, like, anti-Star Trek thing that's going on. And I get it, and some people think it's cool. I just don't like it. So I don't think I'm going to like the Section 31 show. Like, right from the get-go, I can tell you. But that's okay. But yeah, I felt like Enterprise was the closest to TNG for me. I liked it. Unfortunately, the way it ended a little bit was a little weird, but I still like it. But yeah. So there's all my credentials on all the Star Treks, I guess, as much as I could tell you. And that way you guys could compare it to this. You know, to this episode or whatever. And so, yeah, so I am shocked, to be honest. I'm very shocked that I liked Picard. I was very worried. I'm not that shocked, but I was very worried about Picard. I really was. And I got to tell you, once again, that I was skeptical. I was worried about an agenda. I was worried it was going to be bad. And I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. I am shocked that I loved it this much. Or that I liked it this much. I'm still cautious. And it's only episode 1. It could get worse, but they started off too in one scene where Daj's boyfriend is killed at the beginning in Boston, which is great because I'm from Boston. So they said Greater Boston, and it's the future. I never get to see Boston in the future. Almost no show ever shows Boston in the future. So it was kind of cool. I thought that it looked like the future, which was really good, but it still played like Star Trek. And even on Star Trek TNG, we never really saw Earth. So, I mean, we did, but we didn't see a lot of Earth. You know what I'm saying? And that was the future, you know? So it was really nice to see Earth in the future in Star Trek because we don't really see that, you know? The only time we saw Earth that much in Star Trek was Enterprise, but Enterprise is right when the first warp ship finally goes off. So this was really cool. I thought, again, Data felt so much. It was Data. There was no weirdness. It was Data. Picard was, you know, I don't know. He was Picard almost. It's just a lot older, you know. So that was really cool. And it just really it surprised me that I liked it how much as much as I did. Anyway, I think I've said a lot about this. I need to rewatch it again. The Borg ship was green instead of blue, which again I found to be interesting. They'd originally showed it to be blue, but now it's green. It was a very, like I said, tranquil, somber, nice, and I think it captivated for the most part the idea of TNG's more serious and moments, I suppose. But you know, for all the people that are like, it's definitely not TNG, you know, it's not that. It doesn't feel that different to me. You know, when Patrick Stewart first came out onto the stage and said, "This is not the Picard you remember," you know, he's a different man now. You know, it's so different. I was very worried. I was like, oh my God, they're going to change Picard completely. He's going to be this crazy person or whatever. Or, oh my God, no. But that was such an overstatement or misguided overstatement. He's not the Picard you remember. You know, it's not that bad. It's everybody was worried that you know, it's like, yes, Picard is affected by this tragedy, and he's older. He's more alone, probably. He's more reluctant, maybe. He's more, maybe he's, you know, he's obviously reflecting on all the mistakes, what he could have done better. But, you know, and you start to see this Picard in Nemesis at the end. He does have a glimmer of hope at the end, but in Picard, you start to see this little bit of a depressed Picard who's sad that his crew is leaving and things are changing. you really first see him like this in Nemesis, and this is even worse because of all the bad stuff that's happened. It's 20 years later, and he's old. So, yeah, it's I thought this made perfect sense to me. I bought it for the most part. So I will now wrap this up because I'm babbling on. But I loved this. And I am surprised I loved it. Because I saw a lot of people saying it was so great, and I was worried that it was all, you know, agenda people and reviewers. I just can't tell you, man. God, I don't know what it is. I liked it. What do you think? Leave in the comments below. Let me know. We'll see if anything changes going forward. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you sub. Leave a comment below. And hit me up on Twitter at CorruptedPod, at CorruptedPod. Don't usually talk about Star Trek on this channel, but we'll definitely review every episode. And me and Leah will probably do a episode, too, a review. Live long and prosper, Bullfrog. Make it so.